Hello, my name is Matthias Cavodio. I'd like to welcome guys to my channel. Today we're going to talk about my first X-Men comic book ever, X-Men 243. So the story behind this is that it was late 80s, early 90s. I started getting into comics. I got my first issues at a supermarket near my uncle's house. They were on a spinning rack. So I remember getting Spider-Man, Deadly Foes of Spider-Man, New Warriors, Darkhawk, and at the same time, Marvel Series 1 was coming out. It was really big at my school. So I had a local comic book shop. I used to live in Culver City, California, and it was like 4 blocks from my house. And every time I would go, it was always closed. And I was remembering that the owner of the comic book shop, he was exactly like the guy from The Simpsons, the owner of the comic book shop on the cartoon. He was like insanely arrogant, sometimes a little bit hostile to the clients. And the thing is, my dad saw I was super pumped about comic books. He saw a garage sale, and he saw a guy at this garage sale. He had a small box with a small collection, and in that box was this issue, also an issue of X Factor that I still have, Wolverine 1, 2, and 3, also a couple of Todd McFarlane era Spider-Man. So I was already super aware of the X-Men. Like, I remember the X-Men pilot of that cartoon series that never got picked up, where Wolverine had an Australian accent. Also, by this time, I had purchased the very terrible X-Men video game by LJN. So this was like the first time I saw a bunch of characters. Like, we're not going to get into the plot. This is actually the back end of the Inferno crossover, which is really good. What I want to just focus here is how confused I was. It's very hard to jump in, start reading comic books for a lot of people. Like, you jump in on a moving train, you don't know what's going on. All I knew is I saw a bunch of really awesome characters. Like, right off the bat, we have Archangel. That design from the X Factor era was so cool. We have X Factor era Cyclops. I was super aware who Cyclops was. Jean Grey. I don't remember if I knew that. I probably saw her on trading cards before seeing her in this comic book. I had no idea who the Goblin Queen was. Who is this other redhead lady that looks just like her? I was very confused about this situation. And here's one little thing. I recently purchased the X Factor era Marvel Legends Cyclops. This guy looks really awesome. He's very limited in poses, like, because of his hand. Like, you only put his hand, makes sense like this, because he's using his visor. But outside of that, he doesn't have any interchangeable hands. But look at the Kirby crackle effect on the visor. It looks really awesome. And he also comes with a blast effect. So it is so cool. And I love this costume. So let's get back to the comic book. X Factor era Cyclops, really awesome. Wolverine, I already know who he was thanks to the cartoon. In my mind, when I was reading all these first comic books, I had no idea he was a Canadian. He sounded like an Australian. Also, we have Mr. Sinister. I don't remember if he pops up in Marvel Series 1. I think this was pretty much the first time I ever saw Sinister. He's one of my, Apocalypse is my favorite, and Sinister's a close second. He's a really awesome villain. I feel like, as of late, like, he was way too overused. Like, the less you see Sinister and Apocalypse, the better. They make a bigger splash every time they pop up. And here you sort of discover how Mr. Sinister had meddled during all of Cyclops' life, and how he cloned Jean Grey, and that's where the Goblin Queen comes from, and Madeline Pryor. And it's a really, really messed up story that we're going to get into properly in another video, as I mentioned before. Also, during this time, I was very confused because later on I discovered Psylocke, but as a Japanese ninja, and not the original version of Psylocke, who is Captain Britain's sister, a British lady with purple hair. So Iceman pops up in this one. And I was really young. I was like 9-10 years old when I read this for the first time. I thought Iceman was a Silver Surfer, so stupid me there. I was like thinking to myself, why the hell is a Silver Surfer on the X-Men? And also, at the same time I bought the X-Men, video game that was really terrible. That Iceman was also on that game. And I got the Silver Surfer one. Like, those were two very terrible games. I rage quit all the time playing those. Also, during this time, we have Blue Beast. This particular incarnation of Beast, at least aesthetically and the way he used to act back then, is my favorite version of Beast. Havoc is all messed up. It took me forever to realize that this was actually Havoc. I was remembering Havoc also appears in the Wolverine game on Nintendo. He's like one of everyone. There was a lot of video games back then that you would have like extra characters that can clear the screen, take down all the villains, and Havoc was the guy that would do that on the Wolverine game. That it was a fun game. It was just a little bit too easy to beat it. Dazzler was on this. Remember Dazzler from the X-Men fighting game? That game is really awesome. I love that game. And I remember my dad took me on one of my birthdays, took me to an arcade, 5 of my friends, and we played the hell out of that game, out of the Ninja Turtles game. I think we beat both of them. Also, this was the very first time I saw Sabretooth. And he right off the bat, he seemed to be a super awesome villain, even though he got his mind blasted by Psylocke there. Polaris is the first time I got to see her in action. Again, back when I was a kid, I finished reading it. I didn't understand what the hell was going on. I saw this last page with Sinister having obliterated all the X-Men, Longshot standing there. A character that I also found super fascinating, being like the last man standing. And all I knew was I wanted more. When I went to my local comic book shop, finally, I remember seeing the Muir Island Saga had come out, but I didn't have any money. It was like already on its last legs, finishing off during that time. So I got my first X-Men comic book that I bought with my saved money was actually Jim Lee's X-Men #1. And boy, that's my favorite, one of my favorite comic book stories. That first arc ever. That nailed, got me hook, line, and sinker. So this video, I just rambled on about virtually nothing, but I hope you guys liked it. See you guys next time. Bye.